Hello everyone. So right now I'm getting ready to make a skirt. I already made a skirt. I made this skirt yesterday and I love how long it is, and it is very modest. And I went to Joann Fabrics and I got about a yard and a quarter of this fabric 2 times. So really 2.5 yards, but I had them cut it in half for me. And this fabric is actually, I'm gonna show you, it's got flowers on it. I thought it would make a really nice skirt. So what I wanna do is, the first thing I want to do on the fabric is I did wash it and I dried it, and it is cotton, and I always wash it on hot water and then dry it. That way there's no shrinkage. And then I go through and any just frays I just cut off on the edges, and I'll do that real quick. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and line up both of the pieces of fabric. And when you line up the 2 pieces of fabric, you're going to want the inside of the skirt to be on the outside. And after you do that, you're going to go ahead and lay it down on your table and just spread it out. Make sure it's all even. So I'm just going to go ahead and iron that part down that I fold over. And as you can see, it doesn't quite line up because they didn't cut it completely right at the fabric store, but that's okay. It's enough where when we sew it, it will be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it where I ironed it, and be careful with your fingers, it can get hot. When you're done that side, you're going to turn it around, and then you're going to go ahead and fold this about 1.5 inches again. But you need your ironing board. So you're going to fold it about 1.5 inches all the way down. Now after this is finished, you're going to go ahead and sew this either with your machine, or I always sew everything by hand. So if you're a beginner sewer and you're sewing by hand, this little guy right here is a lifesaver. if you look really closely, it has a thread holder that you can put the thread through. You're actually going to put it through the needle, which is much easier than threading thread through the needle, because there is, you know, because first of all, it's metal and it goes right through the hole or the eye of the needle, much easier than thread, which can bend and poke and you can't get it through. So I always like to use this. Now you just put it through the larger hole, and then once you do that, then you take hold of your needle and you pull, and it has been threaded. I usually get a couple of feet worth of thread here. Lick your fingers and just twist, wrap it around your finger, and then you're just gonna do a motion like that and then pull. So I'll do it again. You go around your finger, you're gonna roll and pull. You keep doing that until you have a really nice little knot there, which, there's my knot. Now as you sew, you're gonna take out your pins here, and I have my pin cushion here. Now on here, I'm gonna actually sew closer down here, probably about a quarter to a third of an inch, especially because on some of the fabric, as you recall, it didn't match up all the way, so I want to make sure I'm sewing both of them together. I just do about 6 times like this, maybe 5. Then I bring it through. Then I do it again. I don't know if you can see that very well. After I do maybe about 3 inches, I always do one small knot by going in, pulling up until it's almost finished, and then take a little bit of the thread there that's left and go up. That does a very small knot there that just helps keep it secure. If you do, some of the thread comes undone, it doesn't unravel everywhere. It just unravels 3 inches worth at the most. Then you can go through and rethread it if you need to or want to. Now, right here, you might want to use a thimble because the end of the needle could hurt your finger. Or what I do is when I get about that much, I just come down like this and pull. Okay, I just finished this side. but I'm gonna go back and do a double stitch. I'm gonna stitch right over where I stitched before, just so I have more of a secure stitch. Okay, I just finished the two edges on both sides down the skirt. So both of these are done all the way down. And like I said, I did double stitch them. And now I'm gonna decide which end is my, this is gonna be the waist. And this side will be, it doesn't really matter really, but this side will be the bottom of the skirt. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to get my iron again and fold this over and get my ironing board and show you what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna go ahead and fold this over about 1 inch to create a hem, but I'm actually gonna fold it again. So I'm gonna fold it twice, I always do that. And then I'm gonna go ahead and fold it one more time and iron that down. And then I'll mark it with pins. I'll mark it with pins after I iron it the second time. And you do this all the way across. Okay, you can see that I've ironed this down and folded it over twice, and I put the pins in it, and now I'm gonna sew this. Now this is the hem. So when I sew the hem, I'm not gonna double stitch it just because you'll be able to see it on the other side, close to the bottom where your shoes are. But I'm gonna be very careful how I do it. I'm gonna try and do it as even as possible and make sure the stitches are uniform. So yeah, I'm gonna make sure the stitches are uniform and even and spaced out nicely, because you will see it nicely on the other side. So I'll get started on that and show you how that works. I'm actually gonna begin the stitch here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm not gonna do it down here like I did before. I'm actually gonna do it up high. So as you can see, that's how I'm going to stitch it. Be very careful how I do that. And on the other side, you won't be able to really see it anyway. But if you do see it a little bit, it will be very even and uniform. You're actually going to make tinier, smaller stitches than before, because like I said, you're only going to stitch this one time. You're not going to do a double stitch because it just won't look good since you can see this stitch on the other side. And just a reminder, you do want to double knot it. You want to knot it every about 3 to 4 inches. Okay, so I just finished the hem on this, and it looks really, really nice. And of course I finished the sides as I showed you before. I did 2 sides. So now I need to work on the waist of the skirt. So I'm going to actually do about 1.5 to 2 inches. That's plenty for this to fit through when I feed it through. And I'll show you what I mean later. I'm gonna iron this down and then pin it. Okay, so as you can see, I went around the entire waist of the skirt, which is really large because we're gonna bring it together. And I'm gonna sew this entire thing up. I'm gonna sew it twice and do a double stitch on it. And then I'm going to leave about this much room, about 3 inches where I do not sew it, so I can feed my elastic inside. And I'll show you how I do that. So I'm going to begin the stitch, and I'm going to come all the way down here on the end because I want space here to feed the elastic through. So I'm going to begin sewing down here, and the stitch doesn't have to be as neat and clean as the hem because you're not really going to see it. Unless you wore a blouse that was tucked in, but I'm going to go kind of fast on this, and I'm going to go back through when I'm done and stitch it one more time to do a double stitch on it. Okay, so I went ahead and I double stitched the waist area about 1.5 to 2 inches, and I left about 2 inches here that I did not stitch. And I went ahead and measured my waist elastic, and I put a very large heavy duty pin on the end of that, and you're just gonna stick this in here like this, and you're gonna just feed it through. Now with the safety pin, you're just gonna hold on to the safety pin. So I'm holding on to it with this hand, and I'm gonna pull this out. So again, I'm gonna feed it through with the safety pin all the way through. And then I'm gonna pull every once in a while. I'm going to keep doing that until I get it all the way around. Okay, once you get it all fed through, it's going to look a little like this, and so it's going to look like this. And then I already measured it, and I'm going to go over, like I said earlier in the video, I'm going to go over about 3 inches here, and sew that right here. So I'm going to take the pin off. And before I do sew it, I'm just going to make sure that elastic is like even all the way around, as far as it didn't flip. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I am going to take a pin here and pin this so that I have an area right here that I'm actually going to sew and sew that together. It's a little hard to get the needle through because it is a very hard fabric and it's hard elastic. And I'm just going to sew it back and forth a couple of times and make sure I knot it. I want that really secure so that it does not come undone. And in the event that I ever need to take in the elastic, I lose weight, or I need to let out some elastic, I have some that I can do that. It's really easy. Just open up the skirt a couple inches worth, and you can make a mark of where this is, and you can either you can sew it to the desired size that you want. Okay, I went ahead and I sewed that very securely, and now I'm just going to put it back in here and feed it through so that it's nice and even. There we go, you just pull the skirt. And this area right here, I'm gonna go ahead and sew that closed now. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished sewing that up. Now the skirt is finished. I'm gonna put it inside out now and show you the final skirt and what it looks like. Hi, this is the final product. I absolutely love it. It's a cotton skirt. It's very flowy, as you can see, and it has a nice stretchable waist, and I absolutely love it. Thank you so very much for watching. Bye.